बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। वेलकम बैक टू मैथमेटिकल मेथड्स ऑफ फिजिक्स। आज हम इसका लेक्चर नंबर 22 देखेंगे। बिफोर आई स्टार्ट दिस लेक्चर, लेट मी रिव्यू व्हाट वी हैव स्टडीड इन द लास्ट लेक्चर। In last lecture, we studied Laplace transformation. Basically, we continued with the Laplace transformation. We studied the properties of Laplace transform, inverse Laplace transform, Laplace and inverse Laplace transformations of some special functions. And then we solved our Volterra integral equation using this method. We solved integral differential equation using Laplace transform method. Similarly, we solved some ordinary differential equations, system of ordinary differential equations, system of integral equations, and then partial differential equations, especially diffusion and wave equations. So basically this is the review of the whole Laplace transformation. I think last 2 or 3 lectures we spent on this topic, Laplace transformation, and we studied all these things in this lecture. So specifically in last lecture we solved differential equations and system of differential equations and then partial differential equations. Today we will introduce another transformation that is called Fourier transform. Alright, so Fourier transform will be our topic today. Then we will move on to Fourier sine transformation and Fourier cosine transformation, and then inverse Fourier transform. So let's start with the Fourier transform, what this transformation is. Similar to the Laplace transformation, this is also an integral transform. We take the integration of a function. So let fx be a continuous function defined on minus infinity to infinity. If you recall, in Laplace transform we considered the function from 0 to infinity. That's why we write t for that, because time is usually from 0 to infinity. So ft was our continuous function. Here we are having fx because x can go from minus infinity to infinity. And this is a piecewise continuous differentiable in each finite interval and is absolutely integrable on minus infinity to infinity. Then the Fourier transform of the function fx is capital F alpha. We used s parameter for Laplace transform, t to s. And now we are using from x to alpha. Some people use omega as well. In some books you may see omega, f of omega. But here we will be using alpha. So fx will become capital F alpha and is defined as, this is very similar to the Laplace transform. Only difference is here you see it's e to the power iota alpha x. Over there we had e to the minus st. Alright, here it is iota alpha x. So this is a complex transform basically, and also the limits are from minus infinity to infinity. And the inverse Fourier transform is defined as fx is equal to f alpha e to the minus iota alpha x d alpha. So if I just replace this iota alpha by negative iota alpha x, then this will take your function back to your original function. So this is called Fourier transform pair. Alright, Fourier transform, inverse Fourier transform. This is this is Fourier transform pair. What is Fourier sine transform? If you transform your function by just taking the real part of this thing, you see e to the iota alpha x is cosine alpha x plus iota sine alpha x. So if you take the imaginary part only, sine alpha x, if you don't write this whole thing, you just take the imaginary part of this expression, which is sine alpha x, then your transform will be called Fourier sine transform. Here you see. And the inverse Fourier transform will be f alpha sine alpha x. Here you see both are sine alpha, sine alpha. We are not changing it to from minus to negative. It's just sine alpha, fx and fs. This subscript f means Fourier transform sine. So Fourier sine transform. If I just write f, that will be Fourier transform. Fs is Fourier sine transform. And this is parameter 2 to pi. And one more thing is that x goes from 0 to alpha here, not from minus infinity to infinity. 0 to infinity. So again it depends on your domain. If your domain is from 0 to infinity, you can use Fourier sine transform instead of the full transform. If your domain is from minus infinity to plus infinity, you can use the full transformation. And this 2 pi factor will come out in both the cases here. Alright. Similarly, you can define Fourier cosine transformation. Fourier cosine transform is basically fc fx, which is fc alpha 2 by pi square root 0 to infinity fx cos alpha x dx. All right, 2 by pi 0 to infinity fx cos alpha x dx. So this is only by replacing this sine alpha x with the cosine alpha x will give you the Fourier cosine transform, and we use c in the subscript to indicate that this is a cosine transform, not just Fourier. So this is Fourier cosine transform. Again, if you use this cosine transform on the right hand side, it will give you your function back. So again, a factor of 2 by pi comes in front of these both the transformation. All right. So there are three types of transform: Fourier transformation, where you get exponential, Fourier sine, and Fourier cosine transforms. All right. So let's compute the Fourier transform of fx, which is e to the minus x squared by 2. It's very simple. Our definition of the Fourier transformation was 1 over square root of 2 pi minus infinity to infinity fx e to the iota alpha x dx. All right, fx e to the iota alpha x dx, which is now fx is e to the minus x squared by 2. So if I multiply, I can combine them. All right, e to the 2 iota alpha x minus x squared by 2 dx. And now we cannot integrate it directly. So what we do is we complete the square. If you complete the square, it is 2 iota alpha x and x square. It means I need 2 iota alpha square. All right, I need iota alpha square up front. So I included this iota alpha square. All right, and then I multiplied by e to the iota square alpha square by 2, because of course here I am subtracting, so I have to add them as well. So this is that is the compensation factor basically. I added something on my own, so I have to get rid of that as well. So this is that extra factor. This is a constant. It will come out of the integration. You can bring this out of the integration, and now this is a complete square, e to the complete square by 2. And this has a property that you can convert this thing whenever you have iota alpha minus x by 2. You can convert this to a z variable, means e to the minus z square. You want to make it like this, e to the minus z square. All right. So put this whole thing as z. So define x minus iota alpha by square root of 2 is equal to z. Dx will become square root of 2 dz, and your integral will take this form. You see, this whole thing was z square. So you got e to the power minus z square. Dx has this factor square root of 2. And now if you bring square root of 2 outside, you can adjust it outside. Then you will have this thing. Now this is the Gaussian distribution, and you know that 1 over square root of pi times Gaussian integration should give you 1, because area under the normal curve is 1. Also, this is well-known integral. You must have seen it many places. E to the minus z square dx is square root of pi. You can convert this to gamma function as well. If you want to find this integral, you can convert this to gamma function, and gamma function will also give you square root of pi. All right. So this is a very well-known integral, whose value is square root of pi. We can replace it by square root of pi, and now our solution will be e to the minus alpha square by 2. And it was a typing mistake that there was a square root of 2 here as well. So 2 is already gone. I shouldn't have written this 2 here, because 2 is already gone with this square root of 2. So now square root of pi is also gone, so you are left with nothing in the denominator. So see, the transform of this function is itself basically e to the minus x square by 2 is e to the minus alpha square by 2. You got the same thing back, e to the minus alpha. Of course, now variable is alpha, not x. All right. So that is how we can find the Fourier transform of any function, wherever it is defined. So let's find out the Fourier transform of these functions as well. All right. One is e to the minus a absolute value of x. One is the Fourier transform of this piecewise defined function from 0 to infinity. All right. And similarly, you have these piecewise defined functions, and you have these integrations. All right. So we can find these all transformations one by one. So our first example is fx is equal to e to the minus a x x goes from minus infinity to infinity, right? This is our first example. Second, you can say, because first we solved on the slides, maybe you can call it example 2, right? So we need to take the Fourier transform. So the Fourier transform of fx subject to alpha is 1 over square root of 2 pi minus infinity to infinity fx e to the iota alpha x dx. And now 1 over square root of 2 pi minus infinity to infinity, because you know that the absolute value function is defined differently when x is negative and when x is positive. So I have to break my integral from minus infinity to 0, and for the negative value it is negative x, all right, and for the positive value, when your interval is from minus infinity, it is plus x, all right. So this is what you are getting. So that's why we have broken it up. Your absolute value will be minus when x is between less than 0. When x is greater than 0, it is just x. So now if you write it in one exponent, you will get e to the a minus plus iota alpha x dx, right? Because this is plus ax, so a plus iota alpha x, and in the other integration 0 to infinity e to the minus a minus iota alpha x dx. So this is what you got in both. Now of course the integration is very easy. You can clearly integrate it in one step, that it is 1 over square root of 2 pi e to the a plus iota alpha x divided by a plus iota. This is from minus infinity to 0, and plus 1 over 2 pi, this is e to the minus a minus iota alpha x divided by minus a minus iota alpha. A is here, 0 to infinity. So when you replace x is equal to 0, you will get e to the power 0 is 1. So 1 over a plus iota alpha. And when you replace minus infinity, when x goes to negative infinity, this will go to 0, right? Of course, this will go to 0. And 1 over 2 pi infinity. Now x goes to infinity, but you have a minus sign up front. So again, e to the negative infinity will give you 0 and minus 1 over negative a minus iota alpha. So this is what you got. So if you take this 1 over 2 pi as common, you have 1 over a plus iota alpha and plus 1 over a minus iota alpha. And if you simplify it, this gives you a minus, and iota alpha will be cancelled, 2a divided by a square plus alpha square. All right. So 2a over a square minus iota square alpha square, and iota square is plus 1. So this gives you square root of 2 by pi, because you see 2 by square root of 2 is square root of 2. So you got 2 by pi a over a square plus alpha square. So this is your Fourier transform. All right. So this we got a Fourier transform of exponential function. Let's do another example. All right. So this is the case. And now what is this minus a to a? This is where x bar less than or equal to a. And this outside thing is when x is greater than a, when x is greater than a. So it means you are getting contribution just from this line where your function is 1, otherwise your function is 0. So if you find this Fourier transform of this fx with alpha, all right, you can write 2 by alpha minus infinity to infinity fx e to the iota alpha x dx. Now because you have because you have fx equal to 1 only between minus a to a. So, and otherwise it is 0. So your interval will be reduced to just from minus a to a, because from a to infinity and from minus infinity to a, you have no contribution at all. So fx is 1, so I will get e to the iota alpha x dx. Now integration is straightforward, e to the iota alpha x divided by iota alpha from minus a to a. So your answer is 1 over square root of 2 pi 1 over iota alpha, and then you have to replace the value of x is equal to a and at x is equal to negative a. So e to the iota alpha a minus e to the minus iota alpha a. So now you have when alpha goes to infinity, this term will become 0, so you have no contribution. But when alpha is 0, then you will have plus e to the 0 is 1 and cosine 0 is 1, so you will get 1 over x from here, right? And then this minus minus plus, and again minus, because there are 3 minuses, and you get a by x outside, and you will get 0 to infinity e to the negative a alpha cosine alpha x dx. So this is what you got. Now you see this is your I, because you started with I, and this is your I again. So you can write a by x square plus a square by x square I. And now if you combine these I, you will get 1 minus a square by x square is equal to minus a by x square. And now I times x square minus a square divided by x square is equal to minus a by x square. So this implies that your I is equal to, x square and x square are gone, you got minus a over, or a over a square minus x square. Minus x square. Oh no, this is minus, this should be minus and this should be plus, because the answer should be a over a square plus x square. So we have messed up some constants here. E to the minus alpha sine alpha x by x, this is good. So minus minus plus, yeah, this is plus, this is plus, yeah, so now it's fine. This is plus here, this is plus here, this is plus, and this is minus. Now it's okay. So this is plus and this is plus. Now everything is fine. Now it is a over a square plus x square. So this is your integration. All right. So this implies that your integration from 0 to infinity e to the minus alpha minus a alpha cosine alpha x d alpha is equal to a over a square plus x square. But in our transform, we have alpha to the power n as well. Alpha to the power n as well. So if I differentiate this expression, because I want to get alpha out of it, the derivative of this expression with respect to a is alpha. You see, alpha e to the a alpha. So one derivative will give me 1 alpha. So it means I can differentiate this n times with respect to a. We get, if I differentiate this with respect to a n times, I'll get 0 to infinity alpha to the power n e to the minus a alpha cosine alpha x d alpha. But every time I'll get a minus up front, minus alpha, minus alpha, minus alpha. So it means our minus 1 to the power n will be there as well. And on the right hand side, this is dn by dan of a over a square plus x square. So now I got that integral, right? Now you see we have to find the derivative of this n times, and this will become complicated and complicated. A and a, it is appearing on both top and bottom. So one derivative will become very complicated, second will become more complicated. So how we will achieve the n derivatives? It's not possible, right? But there is one way which we can follow, is this a over x is the sum of a minus iota x and a plus iota x. If you add these two expressions, you will get 2a over a square plus x square. So 2. So I can divide by 2 outside, right? And now it is fine. And now differentiating this expression n times is not a problem. Every time one power will be added, 1 over this expression square and 2 and 4, and so I will get a factorial up front and minus 1 to the power n as well. So now if you differentiate, your answer is minus 1 power n factorial and a minus iota x to the power n plus 1, right? Similarly, the derivative of the other part is again minus 1 power n, n factorial, and a plus iota x to the power n plus 1. Clearly you can find these two integrations. Now because you want to get rid of this iota thing here, because iota should not be in your answer, it should be a real number, you can do something like this. Let a plus iota x is equal to, so you can let a plus iota x is equal to r cosine theta plus iota sine r sine theta. Let's say you do it like this. All right, then a is r cos theta, x is r sine theta. All right, a square plus x square gives you r square, tangent theta gives you a by x. You need, from here, you need a minus a plus iota x to the power n plus 1, or minus n minus 1, right? If I bring it upside, its power is minus n minus 1. This will give you r to the power minus n minus 1, all right? And this cosine theta plus iota sine theta to the any power comes in theta, minus n plus 1. So this will become cosine n plus 1 theta minus iota sine n plus 1 theta. And now the second one, this a minus iota x to the power n minus 1 will be just negative sign. Take the conjugate. You just take the conjugate, you will get r to the power minus n plus 1 cosine n plus 1 theta plus iota sine n plus 1 theta. This will be your two expressions, and by putting these two expressions you will see iota and iota, they will cancel out. So from here, this expression, this star, will become 1 by 2 minus 1 power n, and n factorial is common. You had a minus iota x power minus n minus 1 and plus a plus iota x power minus n minus 1. So I got these both expressions. So if you add them up, you will get, if you add these two up, this sign terms will cancel out. You will get r to the power minus n plus 1 and 2 cos n plus 1 theta. So 2r minus n minus 1 and cosine n plus 1 theta. This is what you will get. All right, so now 2 and 2 are gone. So this is the answer. And now you know what is r and what is r is a square plus x square. You can replace, and theta is tangent inverse a by x. You can replace that as well. So therefore, your Fourier inverse transform, your Fourier inverse, this is star, right? I just found out the expression, so I can multiply by 2 by pi to get the answer. So therefore, your fx, which we were looking for, is 2 by pi times this whole thing. All right, so this whole thing is n factorial cosine n plus 1 theta divided by r to the power n plus 1, and r is a square plus x square square root. So this will be n plus 1 by 2. All right, and where has this minus 1 gone? If you see, we have this minus 1 on both sides. We have this negative 1n and negative 1n. So they will be cancelled out. All right, I had minus 1 to the power n here as well, so they will cancel out. So that's why I'm left with this one. So star is basically without minus 1 to the power minus n. If I call this star, then this was